Yet the layers of suffering and trauma, and neglect and interpersonal abuses and just pain can make it so painfully difficult to remember these types of truths. And that's where, like, to return to MDMA as an empathogen. Empathogen, what does it do? It calms our fear centers in our brain, calms the amygdala. We know that MDMA causes decreased connectivity between the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex, and increased connectivity between the amygdala and the hippocampus, which is memory processing. And so we're getting like functional MRI sort of explanations for what's going on, but then just phenomenologically, this is why MDMA-assisted therapy is a breakthrough treatment for PTSD, because individuals can approach horrifically painful content that's part of their trauma and not go into those survival states of fear and shutdown, where if you were to do that without MDMA, you just can't therapeutically progress, because when you're in those states, it's recycling that trauma again and again. And a lot of people with trauma go for talk therapy. They talk about what happened. They leave feeling horrible because they're just, all of the implicit felt states that accompany those memories are just coming up and not necessarily resolving. And so when you have MDMA, that's enabling not only to access that sort of content in this much more approachable way, and the emotion that is attendant there, it's also increasing self-compassion, trust with the people that you're with, and then this tremendous ability to be witnessed, in that. And that's where, if we want to take our conversation into the interpersonal realm, that level of witnessing, of being seen and attuned with, it's so important developmentally for our health as children and infants. Yet many of us lack that, which sets us up. It makes us vulnerable for things like PTSD later in life. But I think there's so much happening mechanistically on the level of the interpersonal, as well as just the increased range of our optimal arousal zone, our window of tolerance to actually process stuff that is otherwise just so overwhelmingly painful to do.
Let's come back to entheogens in a sec. Let's stay with the empathogens. Maybe you've covered this, but I just want to make sure we're capturing this notion of like how relational, like MDMA assisted psychotherapy is, or why you think that, you do relational somatic therapy, why that relation piece is so important. And maybe for that matter, let's hear why the somatic piece is important as well.
Yeah. I mean, we are born into relationship, right? We're wounded in relationship, and profound healing happens in relationship. We can't be not in relationship. We're constantly relating to our environment, to one another. And as they say in many indigenous wisdom traditions, all are relations. And there's an honoring of that. And so from the relational somatic lens, it's understanding a lot of the work that's been outlined, like by Dan Siegel in interpersonal neurobiology, right? Acknowledging that our brains are wired for social connectivity. We have something called mirror neurons, which plays a huge role in our capacity to feel with another. And a big part of healing and also healthy development is this sense of feeling felt by someone. And so when we're young, we're not born with the capacity to self-regulate or even to name our emotional states and develop, emotional literacy or intelligence. We need to learn that, and we need to learn that through attuned reciprocal interactions with our caregivers, where they come down to our level, mimic our facial expressions, or respond in some way of like, oh yeah, that hurts, doesn't it? And then it's like, yeah, and then soothing and comforting. And then we learn, oh, I can feel pain, and then I can come back to feeling okay. And like our nervous system develops kind of like flexibility and range through rupture and repair. Like we're not always perfectly attuned with, but if we've got caring people around us that come back and say, hey, mommy was really stressed. I shouldn't have yelled at you like that. I'm sorry, sweetheart. And repair, like that, we also socially learn and form relational templates about what's even possible in relationship to other humans. And sadly, many people don't have that. They have neglect, they have uncaring, wounded people as the ones who are kind of fostering their rearing environment, which, maybe if we lived more in community, young children would have access to other safer adults that would buffer that somewhat. But we live in, like, to a large degree, nuclear families too, where it's so much this intense relationship with like one or two adults.
Mm-hmm.
So that all impacts our development, our capacity to self-regulate our emotions and our nervous system, and even to articulate what we're feeling, and to actually be in touch with our embodiment, which is our felt sense, which is our lived experience. And, so that's where the somatic piece comes in. Soma, meaning body. We feel emotions in the body. Emotions aren't a concept, right? And so therefore, in order to actually empathize with others and even connect with our own intuition or, visceral senses of how to navigate the world, requires sort of a level of capacity for interoception, which is like that inner felt sense. There's the insula, there's parts of our brain that are very much the parts that register that kind of information. And with trauma, it's understandable. We disconnect because it's too painful. But because of neuroplasticity and because we can learn at any stage of our lives, we can come back into ourselves. I definitely followed that trajectory in my own healing. Now I'm super embodied, and things like yoga and expressive dance and just having connections and friendships in my life where I can feel and express and be seen and heard and held. This is all, it's all such a beautiful dimension of humanity, but one that I think our society and even our learning systems and everything just isn't necessarily supporting optimally. So that somatic therapy, let's say when you have an insight of something, from a somatic lens, even if, let's say, it's even a positive insight, we can deepen a person's awareness of that by going, oh, tell me more. Do you feel that somewhere in your body when you think about that thing? Or as you see that image, are there any sensations you're noticing? And it starts to help connect that wiring and also bring that experience into an embodied, really lived experience, which I think has the potential to stay, to really anchor and then be returned to consciously over time. So yeah, I think that's a lot of the power of, these contemporary approaches to psychotherapy that are bringing more of the body in. And it doesn't mean like body work. A lot of people think somatic therapy is like hands-on massage or something. No, it's just it's very mindfulness based, and it's curiosity, and it's helping to give language to and resonate with what an individual is experiencing, and really like elaborating that to include the felt perception, and then to use the skills of understanding trauma to help people like pendulate and, dip your toe in and come back out and be resourced, instead of having to be flooded by, going straight into something that's really painful. Yeah.
Hey, thanks for checking out that clip of the Mindspace podcast. You can get the full episode here on YouTube or check it out on your favorite podcast platform. Thanks, and be well.